Well, here I am. It's August the 15th, 2020. And I told you last week I would tell you about going to Kenya. This is catapulting me from a normal life to someone who's on national television. It's a big journey for me. And if you're interested, let me know. And it's going to take several sessions to tell you all the stories and all the adventures that I had in Kenya. It changed my life. I went from being a very ordinary person and having an ordinary life to having a very extraordinary life. Um, I don't really know where to begin. I'll say that I connected with Pastor Christopher on Facebook, and I was in a dark place in my life. I didn't know which way to go next. My mind was just revolving around and around and around in some of my own personal issues and problems. And he invited me to come to Kenya, and it resonated with what I felt like I needed to do. And so I said, I'll come if I can find someone to come with me. Um, that was number one. I'm not going by myself. So I was telling some of my friends about this opportunity, and I connected with one, and he said, well, I want to go to Kenya. He said, I have an invention, and I've started my marketing in Kenya, and so, yeah, no problem. So we both got tickets, and we planned for our departure date of, I think it was January 17th, 2018. And the last evening before we left, he messaged me and he said, I won't be able to go. I have a health issue. I've had it since birth. It's never been a problem, but my doctor just says I can't fly 7,500 or 8,000 miles without coming in for another checkup. And so, remember, I'm not going there by myself, not the first time. So I went to prayer and I asked God, I said, okay, so here's the situation. We've got our tickets bought. What shall I do? And while I was in prayer, I had this vision. I was in a dark place, kind of like here, and I could see through this doorway. And through the doorway, it was very light. And I just heard an inspiration or a voice said, I have set before you an open door, but it's your choice. So I went and shared with my wife, and she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going through the open door. And so I left by myself. Turned out to be the very best thing I could do because I connected on a very deep level with the local people, and went over there, left Nashville, flew to Newark, New York, and then from Newark to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, 16 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah, that's a big flight for a little farm boy. But then from Addis Ababa to Nairobi, arriving at 1:20 a.m. by myself, not knowing anyone, just having trust that the one who promised me that there'd be an open door would be there. And he was. So Pastor Christopher had arranged for Han Gideon, and I didn't know what Han meant. It means honorable. It was the Honorable Gideon Keeter, and he's the member of parliament that's in charge of all the youth of Kenya. So I phoned him at 1:20 in the morning, 1:30. I said, I'm here. Pastor Christopher said you would come and pick me. And that was a word. There's so many adjustments. I learned later that when they come to get you, they pick you. I'll send someone to pick you. And just one of the many things. So they took me to Woodmere Apartments. It's just a lovely place. It's run by a man, I think he's from the States, and it's got a pool, and it's just a beautiful place. If you ever go to Nairobi, I would suggest you go to Woodmere Apartments, and it's reasonably priced. So the next morning around the pool, I met a man from Germany, and he had spent a lot of his life in nonprofit, in water and sewer. He'd been all over the world, and he said, one thing that if you're going to get involved in a mission, he said, find your niche. And I thought that was really good advice. For all of us, we have a specific purpose. We can't be just scattered and doing this and that and the next thing and jumping from here to there and trying to make an impact. So I'm flowing through this really, really fast. And if you're interested, we have a documentary. It's called I Act Documentary 2020. And you can look at that. It's on YouTube, and it kind of details some of our niche. We're teaching people how to self-sustain. We're doing the first thing that I did when we got there, I met Pastor Christopher in Eldoret, flew from Nairobi to Eldoret the next day, and then drove from there to Kitale. And we went and did an anti-jigger campaign. A jigger is a tiny little parasite that bores into children's feet, like under the toes, between the toes, and it leaves a hole, and infection gets in, and you'll see on the video, if you watch it, that it's really devastating. So we went and did the anti-jigger campaign. The next day we went and did some prison ministry. We went to Kitale, Maine. I met Moses Latomi, who is a chaplain of the prison, very nice man. And we went to the Kitale, Maine, and then across the yard was the women's prison. And so, you know, you would think that I would have a lot of fear and anxiety, but actually I didn't. I was very, very calm. And I think it was a result of my leading. And so we did the ministry, and of course, I don't know anything about the culture. I don't know. I mean, I'm speaking through an interpreter. A lot of those people can speak English. It's a little different. The accent is a bit different than ours. But I was staying at Kitale Club, which is a very, very nice golf course. It's got cabins. I had my own individual cabin. It's got a big lodge with an eating area and a veranda, and a dining hall, and a lounge where you can have Wi-Fi, and there's people come, and I mean, there's so many things, swimming pools and saunas, and it's just a gorgeous place, lovely. I'd recommend if you go to Kitale, stay at Kitale Club, especially if you like to golf, which I'm not a golfer, but you get to at least watch a lot of good golfers. So, but back on this cultural thing, the first 2 days I had a cold shower because I didn't realize that there's a button or a switch on the wall. You turn a switch on the wall, and then you adjust on the shower head to get the temperature. It's an on-demand water heater, which is very efficient. And I just didn't know. And so after a couple days, I got, more acquainted with the people, the staff, and I said, I don't have hot water. And they said, did you turn the switch on? And I said, no, I didn't know there was a switch. And so that's just things that small inconveniences. But I was going to tell you, I'm going to run out of time here. I was going to tell you about getting on national television. But so what happened then, and I'll get there. Pastor Christopher would pick me up in the morning. We would go to Katoni Heights, and it's kind of a restaurant, hotel on the 6th floor. Another word I didn't know. He said, take the lift. And I didn't know what a lift was. I was used to calling it an elevator. So I said, I guess you'll have to show me. So the first time we went, of course, he showed me, and I thought, okay, this is an elevator. So we went to the 6th floor, a very nice restaurant. You got a good view of the city, nice food, very capable, competent people working there. And it became kind of my office that first trip. And I met a lot of people there. I met Ezra Chaloba. He was the CEO of Kenyan Elections. He signed the paperwork for the current president, and we became friends. He also farms, and so we still have a connection. Great guy. And so then we went out and helped some farmers. I learned a lot more than I helped, of course. I learned about 6,000 feet elevation on the equator. It's always a high of 88, a low of 55 year round. But they have a wet season and they have a dry season. So they plant their crops just before the rainy season, and they harvest them just as the dry season's coming in. But if they have irrigation, they can farm year round. And so I learned so much. But then the national television. So we went to a mill that was grinding the maize, which is a white corn, into flour and marketing it. And they gave us 19 huge bags full of small bags of this flour, this maize flour, because we was going to go to the IDP camp, which stands for internally displaced people. And it would be like government housing. That's what we would call it. It was poor, it was up on the mountain, and it was great that we had something to give them, something to bless them with. And so, once again, God provided that we had something to take to them. And I didn't know it, but national television went along with us. And the young men that were interviewing us and taking the videos, and they said, we just came, part of our job, right? This is just a story. And they said partway through, it began to touch their heart. And they began to realize that this is not ordinary. This is very extraordinary. And so one of the local pastors, he said to them he said, you men are vessels to carry this story. Be sure that you carry it honestly. And so then we were actually on in 3 different newspapers. We were on national television. It gained a lot of attention because the government had promised that they would help these people relocate, and it hadn't happened yet. And so then a few months later, which was, it was a very nonviolent situation. We were there encouraging these people. We told them, don't give up on God. You've been here 6 years. It looks hopeless, but God has a plan for you. And a few months after I got home, Pastor Christopher told me, he said, there's a miracle happening. He said, the government surveyors are here surveying off plots, helping these people get reestablished. And he said it was due to our visit. And so I see my time is running up. If you're interested in more stories like this, let me know, and I will continue the series. Otherwise, have a good weekend.